Gentlemen, if you have written statements, I believe they've been submitted for the record. They'll be put in. If you could just, if you wish to make a statement individually, summarize what you have to say so we can get to any questions that might be asked, and then we can move on.
Sure, sir.
Okay? Start with whomever you wish.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Joe Barrera. I'm an organizer and advocate from Coney Island, Brooklyn. I've been a member of Families for Excellent Schools since 2013. I would like to start by thanking the members of the Senate Education Committee for inviting me to share testimony today. Hearings like this one where parents, community members, educators, and students have the opportunity to provide input about the governance of our school system are a welcome opportunity to make our voices heard. The question of whether the mayor should retain control of our school system is not one to be taken lightly. As a parent, I do believe that mayoral control is a policy that is a good thing for New York City's children. It allows a mayor to directly manage the city's schools instead of turning over management to a politically motivated school board. Mayoral control brings with it a single vision, and when properly administered, it has the potential to allow major initiatives to roll out and be managed effectively, creating a better school system for all New York City's children. However, as a father whose children attend public charter schools, I have been deeply disappointed by the approach of the current administration has taken when it comes to our public schools. It is an unfortunate example of politics trumping policy, and a reminder why periodic reviews such as this hearing are so important. The current administration has made no secret of their philosophical opposition to charter schools. It was made clear in the mayoral campaign. After being sworn into office, one of the very first actions of this administration was an attempt to deny charter school students access to their schools. I was proud to be part of a group of parents who fought back on behalf of these students. And though we were able to save those schools, the mayor had sent a clear message to our public school parents about how his administration views our right to choose the best public schools for our children. The current administration has opposed the growth of public charter schools despite the overwhelming parent demand. Administratively, they have hindered charter schools' day-to-day operations. And what should be a productive relationship with real choices for New York City parents has instead been one of division and unnecessary strife. Mayoral control is an opportunity for the administration to leave its mark on the future of millions of New York City children. It is a tremendous responsibility. And while I support mayoral control, we must ensure that mayors treat and support all public schools equally. And that includes public charter schools. The legislature can help do this by ensuring that the laws and policies adopted by the state are being implemented appropriately and without unreasonable bias. So my daughter's traditional public school and my son's public charter school deserve a system and a mayor who is equally dedicated to their success. Once again, I'd just like to thank the members of the committee for hearing my testimony today. I hope you will consider it carefully as you make decisions that affect all public school children in New York City. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ian Rowe, and I also thank the committee for allowing me the opportunity to speak at this hearing. I'm a proud product of the New York City public school system. I'm also the CEO of Public Prep, which is a nonprofit network of single-sex public schools that now serve more than 1,500 students across New York, from pre-K through 8th grade. Public Prep consists now of 6 campuses, including Girls Prep Lower East Side, the first all-girls public charter school in New York City, and Boys Prep Bronx Elementary, the first and only all-boys public elementary school in the Bronx. Our philosophy is to start early with the end in mind, to put all of our students, especially New York City's highest need scholars, on a path to college completion. Our curriculum is designed to ensure our students attain high levels of achievement across academic subjects such as the arts, history, music, math, science, and literacy, while also helping our students develop the character skills like persistence and determination and core values of responsibility, merit, and scholarship that we know are so important to overcome the inevitable hurdles to get to and through college. Though we serve students across New York City, we take particular pride in serving students in the South Bronx, where we're focusing all of our future growth. We just finished our random lottery process for the 2016-17 school year. We had 2,319 applications for less than 100 open seats at Girls Prep Bronx, and exactly 1,000 applications for fewer than 75 open seats at Boys Prep Bronx. It is bittersweet to have to tell more than 3,000 families in the South Bronx that the best we can do is to put their sons and daughters on an excruciatingly long wait list, especially when all those families are asking for is the opportunity to send their children to a great public school. I felt compelled to be here this afternoon to speak on behalf of all these families desperate for a good education, as well as the more than 100,000 children in New York City who attend public charter schools. As a school network leader, I support the concept of mayoral control in New York City, and I believe it should continue. Under strong mayoral leadership, this is a far more effective way to run a school system than the previous system of school board control. It empowers the mayor to marshal the resources of the city to serve the city's students. However, as an educator, I do have concerns about what mayoral control has meant for public school students under the current administration. Public Prep has, on several occasions, supported the mayor's education agenda. We have sought a collaborative relationship with the administration, not a combative one. When the mayor announced his 2 signature education initiatives, which he spoke about frequently at this hearing, universal pre-K and dramatic expansion of after-school programs, we were thrilled. These were exactly the types of ideas to start early and extend learning time, which are very aligned to how we believe we can help students achieve their highest potential. But when Public Prep applied for both pre-K and after school, we learned that every type of public school was allowed to participate, save one: public charter schools. For some reason, the administration decided public charter schools shouldn't even get the chance. While public charter schools ultimately won an exhausting and time-consuming battle to be allowed to offer UPK programming and to receive funding for after school, the question is, why did we have to face that battle at all? We are public schools serving public school students. Public charter schools have consistently faced an uphill climb to be treated the same as other public schools in New York City, and have often been demonized by the mayor and the leadership of the city's Department of Education. Public Prep and other public charter schools stand ready to work with the mayor to overcome the massive challenge we all face to provide a high-quality education for the children of New York City. At Public Prep, we have more than 300 incredibly talented team members who've committed their life to improving educational outcomes for kids. We want to help. Mayoral control can be a tool to allow us all to work together and do our level best, but a divisive approach stymies any real opportunity for true system-wide partnership and cooperation between the administration and the city's public charter schools. At the end of the day, the individuals who suffer most are our students and their families that have the highest aspirations for them. It is for those reasons that I believe hearings like this, where state leaders hear from educators and parents, many of whom we have behind us, thank you, while you evaluate the mayor's leadership of our school system, are so crucial. The opportunity to lead the city's school system is a privilege, not a right. And any mayor, whether we are speaking of the current administration or future administrations, must earn that privilege. In order to do that, the mayor must represent the interests of all children in New York City and empower all parents, regardless of race, income level, or zip code, to have the power to choose a great public school, including public charter schools, for their child. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak at the hearing.
Chairman Marcelino, Senator Latimer, Senator Kruger, I'd like to thank you all for staying. It's been like a long day. I have 2 points that echo much of what was said earlier, and then just 2 more flourishes I'd like to add. The first one, and I think we heard it a lot earlier, and I just want to borrow from Winston Churchill, is that, you know, mayoral control is the worst form of governance, but for all the others. When you consider what we had before, this has created a tremendous opportunity for an individual at the top to act with some speed and some urgency on a vision, whether or not we always agree with the vision. And I think that's a dynamic in the schools that's worth protecting. The second one I would just say is that, and the mayor said it himself earlier, the single point of accountability is crucial, and to me actually creates dual governance. Because you are charged with renewing mayoral control, there is a point of contact for you as legislators, particularly when you talk about the fact that the rest of the state sends such a large sum of money to New York City for its public schools. But then there is also the governance mechanism of elections. There are people who can decide whether or not they like the direction the mayor is going on myriad issues, including schools, and they'll get a chance to do that every 4 years. So those are my 2 things that echo what was said before. The other 2 things I would just say is that it feels like folks want to extend mayoral control, and the question really is for how long. And I would urge you all, despite the sort of subtle heckling of charter schools earlier, to look at charter authorizing as a model for renewing mayoral control. Normally an authorizer decides it wants to give you more time and more space to be innovative if you have a proven track record, if you have a vision, if you have things under control. If an authorizer does not feel like you have those things, they may intervene, or they may give you a shorter amount of time, including 1 year, to prove that you deserve to continue to have the right to run a school, or in this case, to run all of the schools. So there's a powerful lesson there. It has also helped us bring some of the best public schools in America into existence, particularly for low-income kids. So I would just urge you to consult that one too. And the last one I would say, just to sort of echo what Ian and my colleagues and others have said, is that the mayor has a ton of power. What he should not be able to do is supersede state law, particularly with regard to the governance of charter schools. And whenever you consolidate power in an individual, the thing I think you really want to do is disperse power through choice as a check against the individual doing the wrong thing, if you want to call it that. So mayoral control is sort of only as effective as a regular human being's ability to police it in the interim. And charter schools and school choice have been great vehicles for parents to vote with their feet, as the mayor said earlier, on his vision or on the vision of Mayor Bloomberg before him. So I would just put those 4 things out there. Again, it will be up to you to decide this. I think most of my colleagues and folks who work on change, particularly in urban districts, think that mayoral control can be effective, but its effectiveness is totally about the mayor. That's what I have to say. Thank you very much for having me.
So, thank you for your testimony. So, just to put it clear in my mind, all 3 of you are in favor of extending and retaining mayoral control. It's just a matter of time,
I think
length of time.
Yeah, I think Darrell actually does raise a very, I think, useful comparable, which is the authorization that we have to live under to demonstrate that we have earned the right to continue to run charters, which is an authorization process, which at maximum is 5 years, but it can also be 3 or 1 year, depending on demonstrated performance.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that we need a check to make sure that state law is being followed in regards to charter and quality education opportunities for families in our communities. And I just want to ensure that the mayor, envision my daughter goes to school with his son at Brooklyn Tech. My son goes to Coney Island Prep Charter School. I just want every child and every parent to be empowered to choose what works best for their kids and have a mayor that's for all children, not 90%, but 100% of our children. And I think it's up to the legislature to periodically just check on them, the mayor, and make sure that he's following policies adopted by the state law.
Yeah, Senator, and just to that point, you know, mayoral control seems to be the right fit for New York. It's not the right fit for every place. And I do think that the prior model had everyone in charge, so no one was in charge. And that the important checks against consolidating power in the mayor rest with you and should ultimately rest with families in terms of having more choices about where they send their children to school.
And I think one of the powers of state authorization processes are that it's very clear what the performance metrics are that you need to hit on an ongoing basis to preserve your opportunity, you know, preserve your right to run schools. And so even, for example, something like graduation rates, which was certainly said multiple times here, well, it's certainly a good thing if more kids are graduating from high school, but if you compare that to the percent of kids entering the community college system that need remedial education, then that's not as clear, a strong evidence of strong performance. So I would urge you to be really clear about what are the performance metrics by which we would say you've earned the right to continue to have control.
Senator Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think some of my colleagues should have stuck around because I think they might have had more detailed questions for you. As a suburban legislator, I don't have the same vantage point that some of them do about what's happened, so I'm going to ask some very general questions, similar to the ones I asked to the mayor before on the structure. And this is perhaps my ignorance. How does the charter school community, the aggregate of it, interact below the level of mayor and chancellor with the system that's in place now? In other words, the PEPs, the CECs, is there any point of interaction between the schools you represent and those structures that were created when mayoral control was created?
Yeah, we have a lot of interaction at multiple levels. At the core level, at the school itself, our public charter schools, we work very, very hard to create very positive co-location relationships with our district schools. That can range from sharing dance programs to professional development. So there are other things that we try to do at the school level to make sure that we're all part of one larger community sharing a building. So that's the first, I guess, primary interaction. In terms of CEC and PEP, every time there is a request for space on either side, there's usually something called a building utilization plan or an education impact statement that has to be reviewed. Usually there are hearings at the Community Education Council. Those are typically approved or not, and then they have to be ultimately voted on by the mayor's PEP. So we've had a lot of interaction, and you know, we generally try to follow the rules and make this a productive interaction at every level.
Yeah, and I'm also on the board of a large network of charter schools that was talked about but not talked about earlier. And I would just say co-location is really like a first date. It can go very well or it can go poorly, but they don't all go poorly, which I think is sort of a myth that is perpetuated. There are lots of schools that have amazing co-located relationships, and it is also worth noting that the majority of co-locations are between district schools. They're not between district and charter schools. But it's worth noting that, like anything, it's about the people, and there's some instances where things are going swimmingly and some instances where things are going where the going's more difficult.
So in the issue of co-locations, where I gather the two schools share the same physical plan, how common a practice is that out of 100% of all locations that you have for charter schools? How many of them wind up being co-located with the public schools? Just so I understand how widespread it is or isn't.
Well, I just would like to point out that, you know, the majority of co-locations in New York City are actually traditional public schools, right? 90% of co-locations in New York City are traditional public schools co-located with one another. You rarely hear about that. What you hear about in the news or what you hear about is when the charter schools co-locate. And again, this division happens at the through community education councils, who are very, and most likely, most times, are very opposed to the co-location process when it comes to public charter schools, and very silenced when it comes to traditional public schools in most cases. And again, just to make sure there's equality and all voices are heard, you know, as a public charter school parent, I'm not able to serve on the community education council because public charter school parents, unless they're I think the borough president appoints you, you cannot actually serve on a community education council. So there's really the voice, a missing voice in that process as well.
Is the experience that you're sharing equally spread out through the 5 boroughs, or there are some places where it works better, some places where it works worse based on geography or demography?
I would say it's building to building.
Are you asking about the quality of the co-location relationship?
Well, in general, because the broader question was how are the charter school community getting along with the community that's represented through the CECs and then ultimately up to the PEPs? And you've indicated that it's a case-by-case basis. So I'm wondering if that case-by-case basis is more or less better based on any geographic realities or any demographic realities. I'm trying to get my hands around, because just to go back to one of the early comments was division and strife, and I'm trying to get my hands around what triggers the division and strife beyond, obviously there's ideological differences, but are there other differences or other things that make this the way it is? Because we're talking about the structure of something, and then we're talking about the policy of the people who administer that structure. And we get to debate and discuss in our conference and then ultimately as the Senate with both of those factors in place. So I'm just trying to understand, is there any geographic or demographic realities to whether there's more or less cooperation when you're dealing with the existing structure of the the non-charter public school community?
I mean, the only thing that I would say is that there is a concentration of charter schools, particularly in the South Bronx, Central Brooklyn, and Harlem. And so when you have that level of high concentration, then space becomes more of a commodity in demand, and that certainly can contribute to tension. But on each individual building's particular situation, geography I don't think impacts that.
And is it the need to have sufficient space and the competition for space, is that really the cutting edge of the problem when you get down to the grassroots level of this? I assume there are charter schools that are in standalone buildings that are not part of co-locations.
The vast majority, or a significant majority of
Significant
public charter schools
majority
are in co-located space.
Okay. All right. Just one final question. The phrase that was used earlier on was administrative hindering. Can you give me a couple of examples of that so I can understand what exactly it is that you have run into that has been, objectionable?
Well, as I mentioned in my testimony, the biggest challenges were we weren't even allowed to participate in some of the mayor's major educational initiatives. So the ability, for example, to serve 4-year-olds, to start them on the path to college completion, charters weren't even given the legal right to have that opportunity, and that was a big battle for us to earn that. The ability to serve after-school students beginning in grade 6, which is a fantastic opportunity to provide a whole host of additional services and additional programming to our kids. Charter schools were excluded from that. We fought and we earned the right, which is great. We now have an opportunity, but we would love to operate in a system where we're all equal from the beginning.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to my more knowledgeable colleague about these things, but whenever I cross the line from Westchester into the Bronx, I'll look to increase my education on the topic.
We'll check your passport.
Thank you, Senator Marcellino. And Senator Latimer, I'm just seeing, get this to work. Let's try this one because it works. Thank you. One of the three of you said you were sort of motivated to come here to testify today because of your concerns, but can I just clarify? This was a by invitation only hearing, so you were actually all invited here to testify, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, because I actually heard from several other organizations who represent parents groups in public schools who weren't invited to testify, for the record, Senator Marcellino. So I'm hoping in the second hearing, we'll have an opportunity for other public school parents and organizations who did want to testify to be able to. So I hope that the invitation list will be opened in some way. So I appreciate you all coming. I want to thank the CEO of Public Prec for testifying with actually some experience running a charter school. For the other two gentlemen, Mr. Herrera, your title is Manager of New York Elected Management at Families for Excellence Schools. Can you clarify what that means to me?
It's actually Manager of Elected Engagement. I started, I was a volunteer, parent volunteer back in 2011 when my child was, when I enrolled him into a public charter school. It was housed in a in a community center located in a NYCHA housing development. They had no gym, they had no lunchroom, kids ate in their classrooms. It was at that point where I became got into education advocacy, became an organizer in my community. I started working with Families for Excellent Schools later in 2013, and I've just recently took on the position of managing government relations.
And is that Families for Excellent Schools, Inc., or Families for Excellent Schools Advocacy?
That is Families for Excellent Schools, nonprofit C3, and we also have a C4 sister